Welcome back to Recorder on the Wall, where we have finally reached the halfway point in this series. I'm your host, Pete.
I'm your other host, Jeremy.
I'm your other host, Katie.
I'm your other host, Drew.
I'm Tim.
There's some who call you Tim.
Tim?
Too many. That has been used too often for me. Too often.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
That and Tiny Tim, so whatever.
If it makes you feel any better, you would not believe how many times as being named Peter, I hear of that stupid pumpkin eater rhyme, and I just want to sock a person in the face when I hear it. It's like, yeah, that stopped being funny when I was 5, so thanks.
Yeah. I'm often down a well. I'm often falling down a well. So.
Oh man.
Oh, right.
Anyway.
Alright, so yeah, before we get to Pearls of Lutra, which I know several people have emailed me about, yeah, we want to do this, and then there's October, which, I don't know. How can we spoil and not spoil that at this point?
Ghosts.
Angels.
Peter,
Oh.
Pumpkin Eater.
Careful you don't cast away there, Drew.
Yeah.
Uh,
Beware the Dutchman.
Oh. But
They might fly.
I'm sure the listeners have figured this out by now. So,
Oh, yeah.
but we're not going to say it right till the next episode. So
Here's spoiler alert. It's not Pearls of Lutra.
that'll be November. So it's coming, folks. I know a lot of people have. This is one of their favorites, and we will get to it. But November. So. And so that just means, yeah, we have covered half this franchise. And in our episode order, we did Redwall, Metameo, Lord Brocktree, the first. Well, okay, let's be generous and say half of Legend of Luke, because I'm not counting Book 3 as anything.
The middle portion.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it wouldn't be the first half; it'd be like a chunk out of the middle.
We did the Empire Strikes Back of Legend of Luke.
Fair enough. And we did, from there, we did Martin the Warrior, Mossflower, Legend of Luke's books 1 and 3.
You forgot Outcast. Oh wait, I forgot.
Didn't.
That's
Nope.
after.
Outcast is after that.
Oh, I'm
Outcast.
going off the order that was on here, and my memory
I
sucks.
literally just
and
switched it as you were
And-
talking. So,
Also,
I
the fact
would.
that I had like 4 hours of sleep, so I'm I might be out of it randomly.
Ooh, this is
I
gonna
was
be
gonna
fun.
say-
Yeah.
yes. From Outcast, we went to Mariel, The Bellmaker, and then my favorite growing up, Salamandastron. And then we did 2 seasons of the cartoon.
Indeed, and fan fiction. Lots of fan fiction.
We did! And which we're not going to bring up for this, but much less the food episodes. One thing we didn't do, and I know I've mentioned it on show, and I do want to get the art, and I'm probably going to save it for when we actually have the artist, because I am following him on Twitter and he's following us, is the Great Redwall Feast. And if you're
Nice.
not familiar with this, because it's surprisingly not always mentioned in Redwall fan gatherings, it's more of a picture book than a genuine novel. It's not even a novel. Not hell, barely even I wouldn't even call it a novella. It's a picture book with kind of rhyming poetry as the prose. And it's great, but I want to save it for when we need a episode break or a cooldown, and when we can get the artist on the show.
Speaking of picture books, we also covered the Redwall comic.
Yes. Oh, thank you. I forgot to
Yep.
put that up.
I forgot about it too, and we were talking about, you said picture book, and I was like, pictures. Oh right, we did the comic.
Yeah, and then there was Seven Strange and Ghostly Tales, which has nothing to do with this, other than the but it was fun.
Yes, that was fun.
So at the halfway point, and granted we're doing this more in chronological than publishing, what can we say where we are?
Where
Just-
are we going?
Just taking the lead on this, honestly, there have been times when I'm still willing to do this. I'm gonna see this through, and I'm still in love with this franchise. I haven't reached the point where I was exhausted of the common tropes and the seemingly repeating stories, which that's a story for another day. That was Tagarung is where I left the series, and we'll get there. But yeah, this is still good writing. It's not adult. It's not written for adults. It's written for kids. We all know that. But we're all nerds, so of course we're going to keep coming back to this.
I was gonna say that really never bothered me. I know some people have mentioned that that's the thing that they kind of get annoyed about with the Redwall series is like, they just seem to eat feasts, solve riddles, and fight battles, and the good guys, always win. So far, anyways. No spoilers. But I was just, I guess I just find that very comforting. I just like to read these for comfort, and especially with a job like mine where lots of bad stuff happens in the real world. Lots of bad stuff happens. I like to read books with happy endings and that are kind of predictable. It's just a thing I like.
Oh, absolutely. And let's be perfectly honest here. There is very few franchises out there that have the chutzpah to genuinely not end in a way that is at least going to be satisfying to fans. Go away, HBO. I know what you did. Twice, apparently, with The Sopranos and Game of Thrones. And yeah, you can make an argument about a million other popular franchises. I am not going to touch on the hot mess that is Star Wars much.
Oh, God.
And Jeremy and I have ranted on our other podcast about Star Trek for various movies.
Oh, you know what? It's actually the reason why I was happy that the reboot Star Trek 4 got canceled, because I'm like, good, we ended on a good note. Because Star Trek Beyond was very fun.
Oh, I won't disagree with that.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of franchises where you look at it and go, yeah, this should have ended a little while ago. Like, I told Pete I just finished watching through the Rocky movies. I'm pretty sure Rocky 5 was not necessary.
Well, don't forget, isn't there a Rocky 6? And don't forget
Rocky Balboa, which was it was pretty good, though a lot of it felt like it felt like they were killing time leading up to just, the training montage and the fight at the end. Like, there was a lot of stuff in this movie like, does this really serve a purpose, or are you just trying to fill some runtime?
He fights on the moon on that one, right?
No.
Wait, what?
4 was the closest to that. 4 was like the most ridiculous. 4 was fun, but like when you kick off a movie in a franchise that like started off as like this down to earth thing with a talking robot, like what? I was watching that movie. I'm like, I could see I'm supposed to shut my brain off for this.
Oh, so that's what that what's the name of it? The Hugh Jackman boxing robot movie was. That is secretly in the Rocky franchise.
Wasn't that Real Steel?
Yes.
Okay, I totally forgot that movie existed. Speaking of franchises that probably should have ended a while ago, X-Men Dark Phoenix now on video.
But if you have the mind to complain about this particular franchise, Redwall, never really grew into new territory or tried something new, you wouldn't be wrong. But here's the thing: if most writers, when they have something that works, are going to keep it going.
Exactly.
If this is older than time, because if you even go back to the frickin' Bard with Shakespeare, do you know how many of his comedies or tragedies tend to rhyme in one way or another? Quite a bit, actually. It's actually one of my favorite approaches to that, and if you've never seen this, they've got clips on YouTube. The Abridged Shakespeare Company's Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged, which is about a 90-minute parody film of the entire works of Shakespeare. They even mention this, and they condense all 16 of his comedies into one play that they write themselves. And it is hilarious.
Well, for me, like, it wasn't the predictable nature of the books that I did feel like some of them it was starting a little formulaic. It was more of, it felt like things that had been more fleshed out in earlier books were getting rushed along in the later ones. And some of the names started to get more and more incomprehensible. Like, I can name pretty much like all the main cast members of Martin the Warrior. I do not remember, and nothing against Marvel Fox the book. I really enjoy that book. I cannot remember I cannot remember a good chunk of the names in that book because some of them are really weird. Like, I can't remember what the big bad male fox's name is. Was it Mocan?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
All right.
could that be because there are actually more main villains in that one, and it feels like there's more main characters in Marvel Fox as well, like all the traveling players. And I
True.
want to say there were more traveling players in the Noonvale, whatever they were called, than the Rosehip players, but I could be wrong about that.
That's probably true. And I like Marvel Fox a lot. I
Oh, me
like
too.
a lot of the
Mm.
I like a lot of the themes in the book. I like the fact that, not every character is there are some unique characters in that book. You actually get like a villain shrew essentially in it. Like that was kind of neat. And Krega being like, oh no, Krega's retired. No, she's not.
Okay, and then on that note, I need to issue a general issue spoiler here.
Oh,
We
right.
are
Yeah, fair.
under normal circumstances, I try to keep this podcast from addressing books we have yet to cover, with some minor exception. That restriction for this episode alone is lifted. Talk about the franchise at all. I don't mind.
The weights have been dropped. I am at full power.
What?
I can
9,000?
finally tell the audience that Rose is dead. I won't let the meme die.
Apparently not.
Oh God. The little Volker ants.
Oh,
Chicken
no.
Hound is Slegar.
It was his sled.
Yeah, you know what you're referencing.
Yeah. But no, for me it was, I don't know, like I left the series and then kind of came back with Hyrule Lane, and while I liked a good chunk of that book, there were parts of it that felt like, wait, what the heck just happened? Like, it felt like three things happened at once, and all of a sudden a character who I forgot who they were was dead. And I can't name that character because their name, I think, was something weird. And it just felt like really rushed and out of nowhere. So that's kind of where I stopped. But I am looking forward to reading the books that I have not read yet for this podcast, because I'm looking forward to just like raw reactions for, I think it's like the final three books.
Yeah, same. I kind of stopped around. I forget exactly which book that I kind of dropped off. I want to say Tagarung also was kind of like the last book that I fully remember reading. I feel like I came back to. I'm gonna probably mix the pronunciation on this. Eulalia. And I was actually kind of upset when I read Eulalia because I thought it was going to be about the origin of the phrase, and just kind of like, oh, well, what's the battle cry mean? And I think that's one thing that I always was hungry for as a child, was that, I'd be reading one book and then characters I fell in love with wouldn't be in the second book or the third book. Or, in fact, that's one of the reasons why I liked the whole Marl Fox and, oh God, what's the order of it? In any case,
Long Patrol,
It's-
Marvel Fox, Tagarung.
yeah, I think that's it.
And
where
Pearls
Krega,
before that too.
And
where
Pearls.
Krega and several characters' names carried over, because
Mhm.
that felt like, oh, we're actually here with them a little bit more longer, and we can actually, have them around a bit more. And I think that's one thing I always regretted about the series, is that, I didn't really find it, like Katie said, is that they're comforting, but I always felt hungry for more. Just, I wanted to spend more time with certain characters, or even just have references back to more other characters, and more often than not.
I get you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean, yeah,
oh,
he tries
go.
to do that a little bit. But-
Yeah, that was the thing that got me post Tagarung, where it was just like new cast of characters in every single book and no real reference to the prior one. Where we go from Matameo through Tagarung, where there's at least one character carrying over from book to book.
Or at the very least, that we find out tangentially what happened to the previous cast.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like in Salamandastron, they at least reference Saxtus, like had passed away or things like that, or that Melis had passed away, even though. Mm.
To her well-deserved
that was like a
peaceful
nicer way of
rest.
putting it.
Yeah.
But so at least Salamandastron, while it felt like kind of stood on its own, at least made reference to events and characters from Mariel and Bellmaker.
Honestly, in the material that we've covered thus far, the biggest skip in that respect is from Salamandastron to the original novel.
Yep.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's simply because the original novel is the original novel. It was setting the rules for the tone.
Yeah. And in terms of chronologic wise, we're not even going to see Salamandastron again until Long Patrol.
Oof.
Like the last book we saw it was the titular Salamandastron, chronological wise, was Redwall. It's not mentioned. Matameo, it's not mentioned. Pearls of Lutra, it's not mentioned.
No, well, I'm pretty
Or
sure
maybe
at
it's-
some point they follow up with happened. What Orlando the Axe walks away
That's
from
right.
Redwall.
So okay, it's mentioned, but we never see it. Like there's no scenes there
Mhm.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
And granted, I mean that's because in Redwall and Matameo, I'm assuming Jake's hadn't come up with it yet. Or at least
Well-
Matameo was Matameo written after Mossflower?
Yeah. So
Yes,
he'd
it's
come
both
up
right.
with it by Mossflower. but
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just Matameo didn't take place anywhere near it, so
Well, that was kind of my joke at one point. I don't remember where we covered it, but I was like wondering what. Hey, Dad, why didn't you go to Salamandastron and help when Clooney invaded? And then Matthias just has a slow, painful turn of the head as he realizes he could have. But no, if we're going by the original book, technically the mountain we didn't even know existed back then. So
Well, I could say Matthias would then actually look at like Constance or one of the elders and be like, yeah, why didn't we go to them? Also, what's Salamandastron?
Again, the education system in the Redwall Abbey is very sparse at best. It feels like.
Yeah, I have a geography question about Salamandastron and Redwall. Did they ever build a road between the two?
Not that I know of.
No.
That's the one thing that my one complaint about the middle of every single book where somebody's going to either Salamandastron or they're off to get a MacGuffin is that it's like poorly defined forest number 6 and maybe there's a river and
This is
So-
true.
So
then there will be a bird.
So you're telling me
Or
that
bat.
Abbas Germain left more concrete instructions back to Lomehedge than the two major centers of anything in this franchise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they left better instructions to get back to the place that died from a plague. Like, what the heck?
So my memory is a bit spotty right now, but I feel like it's just because I just kind of read Tagarong in that at the very end of that, I think I remember at the very end they're running down a road towards the Abbey, aren't they?
And yeah, Russino shows up last minute to
Yeah,
prevent
like
the Abbey from
Yeah,
being
they're-
invaded.
What I'm
There's
saying is I
definitely
think there is a road, but like no, I don't think there's like a defined 20 miles till Salamandastron or
Yeah.
something.
There's definitely a road to Redwall, but they never really define like where it begins or where it's coming from. Like I think it passes by Saint Ninian's Church before, well, what's left of Saint Ninian's Church.
Yes.
Because I mean, for what it's worth, the animated series does depict that road in the first season when Clooney is riding on the mysterious horse cart, as they literally have a mile counter as he gets closer.
What's a horse?
Nobody knows.
Clooney created a stampede of this mythical creature called cattle.
Oh.
Through the Vatican? No, I'm sorry.
Bad
Bad reference.
Pinky, sign here.
But yeah, the geography is as pretty fluid. I've actually seen the best unified version of this when a fan literally created their own risk map out of the franchise.
Oh yeah, I
That-
wanted to get that.
It's on Pinterest or whatever. It's out there in the wild if you do Google image search. And I mean, I'm using it for my own tabletop campaign. But it actually shows Marshank, Camp Tossock, of course Redwall and Salamandastron, but it shows not only the gorge where Slagar, fell to his death, but it also has Southward and the Castle Flora, and yeah, so manages to kind of create a unified theory.
I do wish we had seen more of Southward in later
Oh.
books after Bellmaker.
Yeah,
That's a question.
I mean, the next time Redwall sees another army over the hill, call for help. It isn't just Salamandastron that's out there anymore.
Well, Southward is pretty far away to call for reinforcements from, but
Light the beacons.
the
Redwall calls for aid.
vermin are coming. The vermin are coming.
But And the series is deliberately coy on an eastern coast of the continent. We see it with Marshank, but that's about it. But overall, this has not been a bad journey thus far. There is some exception, and we've called this out in individual books. Podcast. I know we're harsh on Outcast, and I've actually heard more people kind of. There's a particular fan theory I want to address in a bit about that, but yeah, it's arguably, I would argue, the weakest of the books we've covered so far, and I'm not counting Legend of Luke Book 3, when it doesn't even bother to name the Vermin Martin scares.
It was like 20. It was like 20 pages. Yeah, I agree to that. That Outcast wasn't bad. It just large portions of it I could have done without. I think I definitely had a more negative take on it this read through than any of my previous ones.
Me too.
Maybe because we were looking at it more critically, and also since we were reading these like back to back to back to back, and with Outcast we got Legend of Luke books 1 and 3 are weird, but like we had essentially finished Mossflower, which for me is like one of the best ones. And then Outcast, which at the time was the first book to take place like pretty soon after Mossflower, where Bella is actually still alive, and Sunflash and everything with Sunflash's weird rotating age.
Yes.
So, and I liked Sunflash's story a lot. It was just, the titular story of the book was the weakest part. And we went over this like a million times. So far, I'd say Legend of Luke books 1 and 3 and Outcast and portions of Outcast have been the weakest stuff so far.
I would agree.
I would as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I kind of wish Legend of Luke, Luke's story had been the whole book, and the Martin stuff would have just been the bookends, like we have in like Mossflower, Martin the Warrior, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, did we need to come? I was actually rereading Legend of Luke a little bit ago. I don't know what I was doing. Something that didn't involve transcripts, because that's been most of my life these days. But I was doing that, and there were so many villain groups, like Painted Ones, Flitcheye, another like a random rat and his dad and their band. It's like, did we need all these? Like, did we really?
Yeah, well, that's the recap episode of the Redwall series. Kind of like how we're having this recap of the podcast.
It's like the greatest hits.
Remember the Painted Ones? Remember the Flitcheyes?
What are they?
Remember the journeys that we all went through in our own hearts?
Aww.
The hedgehogs on the beach. Nope, neither do we.
Remember Sinker? No one does.
I always will remember Floater now. I will never forget that. I hope he's in the cartoon. I really hope he's in the cartoon. If anyone knows, don't spoil it for me. I want to find out.
I don't remember.
Oh, God. There's going to be at least one point during the cartoon where if he's not mentioned, I'm going to see a rat floating face down in the water and just go, "There's Floater!"
There he is!
There's Gargles! Yeah. What do you think the high point of this has been so far?
Ooh.
As far as the series or the podcast?
The books we've covered on the podcast.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say interviewing the audiobook actor was.
Yeah, that was dope.
Admittedly, I'm gonna go Martin the Warrior as one of probably my favorite book to yet cover. Don't get me, growing up, I've mentioned this on podcast. Salamander Storm was my favorite, and unfortunately, I missed part 3 of that. But in retrospect, I honestly think Martin's the best story because even though we know, having read this series, most of us haven't realizing where this book has to go, it's still one of the most compelling stories written. And arguably, it's one of the few tragic books we're ever going to get in this series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, later books. I won't mention all the crap that happens in Doom White, but holy
Oh,
man.
God.
Oh,
See,
Maybe we should do that for the Halloween episode.
yeah.
I am completely in the dark with that one. They're like,
As am I.
so
It's
Yeah, welcome to book
Yeah.
3 of Doom White. That's our Halloween episode.
yeah.
See, this is why I feel like I can't actually spoil everything because I don't want to spoil you guys either. So I'll just keep my mouth shut about that.
Yeah.
That is appreciated.
There's a lot of body horror stuff in that book. And it's weird. Like I feel after I read that, I was like, was Jakes going through like a dark phase when he wrote this?
Well,
Like,
I mean, to quote the Abridged Shakespeare Company again. I mean, even the Bard himself had a Quentin Tarantino phase with Titus Andronicus.
Yeah, thing for feet.
Yeah, I was gonna say violence.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even just the violence. It was like a lot of the weird ways we'll get to it, but there was like a lot of just messed up stuff that happened in that book with like heroes and villains alike that was just disturbing.
Yeah, it was
Um,
basically the Saw franchise of
Yeah.
the Red Wall series.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I actually
I-
would not disagree with that.
At some point, I keep wondering if you guys are either overbuilding this up or underselling it, and I have no
Oh.
idea what I'm in for.
It for me, you know what? Actually, I think of the best way to describe this. It was like when I watched the first RoboCop for the first time after growing up, not knowing what that franchise was, and just knowing it from like cartoons and stuff. And suddenly, I'm watching this like over the top violent movie with this dude getting his limbs blown off. That was Doom White for me. Was like, oh, there's like there's battles and stuff, and characters have lost eyes or things like that. No, now we've got like characters being driven insane by spikes jammed into their brain.
Wait, what?
Yes, I'm not making this up.
Oh wow.
Or like a character getting stung to death by bees, and then a description of their bloated corpse.
Wait, stoned to death by bees or stung?
Stung.
No salamander
very
sting
tiny
was
rocks.
involved in the making of. Well, maybe it was involved in the making of the book. But
Because I was about to say, like, well, that's some very drastic different. This is weird.
I'm
I
just picturing
will-
bees, like each bee carrying like a couple pieces of gravel and just.
I will say that in one of the later books, a character is straight up burned alive, and I think that's the darkest the series has ever gotten.
Holy crap. Which book was that?
Shoot, I think it was Road Crew.
I was gonna say I do not count Road Crew as a
Oh,
red
I-
wall. I know it
Those are
technically
the
is.
ones I haven't read, so. Oh, God. Yeah. So, like, I'm wondering if Jake's wrote a couple of these going like, oh, you think these are too kiddie, huh? Well, here, check this out.
We have to upgrade this podcast to a PG-13 rating specifically just for those 2 books.
Yeah. Well,
They have
speaking
to.
of which, when we cover, we're going to have to be, there's definitely more PG-13 stuff in the Castaways of the Flying Dutchman series, so we'll have to be wary when we get to those.
Noted. And yeah, spoilers, readers. That's what's coming next week.
Oh, if you didn't figure it out by all the non-subtle hints we dropped.
Castaways of the Flying Dutchman died?
The Flying Dutchman sinks? What? Yeah. Especially, I'd say the second and third books of that series, those got dark at points.
Okay,
yeah.
third
So
book. I
we'll
have
just
so
we'll keep an
many
eye out when we
problems
get to those. But yeah, I feel like he was like I think those were intended to be a little bit more on the PG-13 side.
Yeah, I don't think we want to get into spoilers, but like the first and second book I didn't mind, but the third book has so many problems with it that I just can't even like it just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't think I as a white person can really describe what bothered me about it, but we'll get there, I suppose.
Yeah, the third one's
Oh dear.
there's some dark stuff
Yeah.
because it's in the real world during certain
It's-
times.
It's problematic.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
The second one has like a psychological horror moment in it too.
No, I mean, I'll talk to you guys off air after we finish this, but we may want to consider not really releasing this on the main RSS feed and making this a bonus episode directly on the site instead.
This specific episode?
No, the Dutchman side.
Oh,
episode.
okay.
Maybe.
The first one I think is fine for the most part. Like I mean, we
The
can.
first one's fine.
Yeah, the first one I can't think of anything that's like over the top in it. It's the second two that start, and even two for the most part isn't that bad. There's just like a scene in it where a character literally screams themselves to death.
Yeah, the
Oh.
third one isn't really about the book itself or the events that happen on the face
Mm-hmm.
of it. There's just a lot of stuff that if you go deeper, it's just like, oh, that's a problem.
Like there's subject matter in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
A topic
it's the
of
consequence
debate.
of having it take place in the real world during certain time point and like points in time. Of like
So basically, like the first Captain America movie taking place during World War II. You know, there's things they could have done that they didn't. That's what
yeah,
you're telling.
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Or
Anyway, back to sorry, we've definitely gone
Woo!
off topic. Back to
So,
the family friendly series of Redwall books.
before we get to the fan theory I want to discuss, because this fan definitely took the time to not only let me know this was out there for me to read through and definitely bring it up, but I actually want to hear from everybody here, if you could change one book we've covered, whether a major or minor change, how would you do it?
Like,
One book.
well, I think I said it earlier, but I would have made Legend of Luke the whole book be the story of Luke, and just have the Martin stuff be the bookends at the end,
Yeah.
like they do with some of the other books, where it's just them telling the story. I think if that story had been longer and more fleshed out, I think it would have been like I like Legend of Luke book 2, but I think it could have been even better if it had been an entire like 350 page book.
Yeah, like if Martin's mom had had enough of a personality where we'd actually feel sad for her own sake, rather than what it did to Luke and Martin.
Yes, and I would have enjoyed an even longer build-up with Ranguvar Foeseeker, with just how awesome she was. I think
Right.
with even more time, she could have been even cooler. So,
hmm
yeah. So just things like that, like fleshing out some of the characters more, maybe fleshing out the villain a little bit more in points. So just, yeah, I think that would be the one I would change. And it's essentially just, I liked this and I wanted more of it.
Right. So for me, predictably, I think Outcast and the two characters I would change would be Bluefen and Vale. Bluefen to make her actually have, lines, because that's
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of important. A personality, maybe to be working against Swart in some possible way, because he did kill her father and she could be smart enough to figure that out, or possibly working with him, like kind of strategizing with him and Nightshade. Just something, her to have some sort of a personality, and if she was killed, to make you feel something, like if she was like a despised character, like, oh good, she died, or like, oh that's kind of sad that she died, like something other than, oh she died, sad.
Yeah, her personality can be summed up as she had a baby. And
Right.
that's about it. That's
Yeah.
the only thing. She gave birth to the titular outcast. That's it.
Yep. And speaking of him, I would really have liked him to have some affection for Bryony, because it is proven in these books, and I think in the books that we've already covered, that vermin are capable of feeling affection and fondness and certain things like that. So this character who raised him since he was a baby, he could be annoyed with her. He could, like, be rebellious of her authority, all those things, but he could also show some affection for her, like, why are you following me? You need to go back. Let me do this on my own. I love you, but this is not a thing that you should be doing right now. Just have some sort of indication that he liked her at all, so that him saving her at the end doesn't seem like it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, like sort of like I appreciate that you want to still take care of me, but you're in more danger out here than I am, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt there.
I was done.
Oh, okay. I was just going to agree that I feel like we're dogging on Outcast a lot, but it is kind of a problematic book for what it is as far as like the rest of the series is concerned, because it raises the question of like this whole nature nurture thing that even Brian as stated before, that vermin are vermin, like the goodies are goodies, the baddies are baddies, which that hurts, because it's like you get situations with characters like Blagat,
Right.
where it's like then it's just very frustrating that like the potential for Outcast could have been so much more, but it feels like he I don't know if it was just like he just wasn't too interested in the concept alone, and he wanted to save it for a later story or something. But it's so it feels like missed potential. It feels like a lot of stuff could have been used in there, but it just wasn't living up to what we all kind of were expecting it to be.
I mean,
and it's frustrating because Blaggett was done very well, I thought.
Oh yeah, that is actually like my high point in the entire series. I cried, like I really 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 like Blaggett. So
Heck,
and I soapboxed about this last time, but Blaggett is proof that as an adult, one of the most frustrating things about this book, where species equals alignment, doesn't have to be true. You could genuinely have good gray characters in either direction that challenge the accepted morality, where if you are a said species, you have to be this. But
I get and I do get that argument. It doesn't bug me as much. Like I like stories where characters do have shades of gray to them. Like in stories where the protagonist is also a character you're like, you're kind of not a good person, sort of thing. And there are examples. Heck, the book we're coming up to is going to have a character that is kind of morally gray in it. Romska.
I love her.
Oh yes, oh my gosh, I forgot about Romska.
Yeah, I've totally forgotten who that is. So I look forward to exploring that.
You will see. I really liked her. And so like there are, I think that also does make those characters stand out a little bit more. Like Blaggett and Romska, I don't think we would look at as fondly if they were just like one of 100 different vermin that like changed sides or decided to be more morally gray or more on the good side. Like that's the flip side of it is, yeah, you don't see it that often, but on the other side, you don't see it that often, so it makes real impact when you do.
Here's is everyone good? I was gonna change it to my book. But
did Drew and Tim do theirs?
I just reaffirmed Outcast, but you know, I didn't. Again, now it's I was saying I feel like we're talking Outcast a lot, but I just.
Well, actually, I was gonna make
Outcast.
I'm gonna make the one I would change. And we've already addressed Outcast, so I don't feel the need to do that. Is and we have this big fan theory we get to read in a moment. Is I would actually change the ending of Martin the Warrior. Still keep the bookends, but I would actually want to follow Martin just maybe a chapter or two on his more, and it could be even haunting as pretty much as he walks into Mossflower, like because we know in the book Mossflower, he's hiding everything he needs to do, everything he just went through to protect Noonvale. He says as much, but you could we could see in those final proposed chapters of Martin the Warrior maybe a little bit more of his internal dialogue. Because he's literally, as we kind of established more for humor's sake during the Mossflower episodes, he literally walks right into vermin hands and gets thrown into jail. Mm-hmm. And, there could even be like he starts laughing with irony because here he is all over again.
Mm-hmm. Here it goes again.
That would be the only thing I would change, to maybe see some more of his internal thought processes as Mossflower gets started, to let fans then read into Mossflower.
Yeah, like maybe just like something that kind of bleeds into it, so we get to see that, because since Mossflower was written before Martin the Warrior, we don't have any of that.
No. And, I mean, we don't even have the outright lie he tells about, which one book is he? He's like, oh yeah, Tim Below Stowe and I were totally good friends, guys.
Yeah.
I think that is Mossflower, actually.
Yeah, in Mossflower, they're buddies. They're instant buddies, but in Legend of Luke, they're kind of not. And in Martin the Warrior, it's flat out said that Martin was like, no,
you're
Tim
not my dad.
You're bossy. Yeah. I'm totally going to go off my own. Oh, hi, Capture.
Oh,
bye,
hello,
Grandma.
Capture.
Yeah, poor Grandma.
Yeah. Is she in the cartoon?
I don't know.
She is. Spoilers.
I'm kind of expecting her to be briefly there, but...
Briefly, yes. Briefly is the keyword.
She's briefly in the books, so yeah. All right, Anybody want to talk about their choice before I get into this fan theory?
Slagar replaced with a non-sentient fox.
Like a robot.
Just like, all the vermin. They're like, "What's up, boss?" And he's just like, "Ah!" They're all like,
Is he like a Terminator? I am the Foxinator.
No, but if I would actually change anything, I know sometimes we bag on the villains a bit. We say, okay, they're kind of one note. Each of them kind of has their one gimmick. It's Clooney, the warlord, and Farago, the assassin, and each has a different method of how they're gonna achieve their goals, which ultimately ends up with like 2 failed plans and then just sending all of their minions out. So,
Or in the case of Gabool, just going completely insane.
That was cool. That was cool. Here's I have more problems with the protagonists than I do with the villains, because I would query that you could drop Matthias as the protagonist of pretty much any of these books, and it would nearly be the same book, like the main male protagonist. It's just so like.
I'm looking through. I was just looking through the book title, like all the different books. I'm like, yeah, he could fit. Like, I don't know if Matthias could have rallied Mossflower as well as Martin did.
No, Martin was hard. Martin was a real OG. He was probably the best protagonist. I like Songbreeze too, but I mean, it's like, I am a young, upstanding resident of Redwall, Salamandestron, random place, number 6. And I'm on the cusp of adulthood, and my friends are being threatened, and I'm gonna hit them with the sword until they die. Sometimes their companions are like actually way more personable. I liked was it Dottie in
all the way back in Brocktree?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tertiary characters in most of these books actually are, for the main protagonists, are usually more interesting as far as like some of their own motivations, as well as like who they are and like the quips that they make and stuff like that. My memory is, again, I'm very spotty when it comes to this stuff, but I want to say that, because again, I think it's coming, like, it's in Marlfox. Is it Arvin that's in Marlfox?
No, Long Patrol.
Oh, what am I? Gosh,
I think
I'm all over the
Arvin's in
place.
2 books. One as a kid, one as an adult, right?
He's a kid in Pearls of Lutra, and he's the Abbey Warrior in Long Patrol. I think
Oh,
you're thinking
yeah,
of Dan in Marlfox.
That's probably it. But
Dan
I feel
Floor?
Yeah, I didn't find him too one note or milk toast. I found him pretty okay. So
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think one of the best protagonists is yet to be seen, Rackety Tam.
Aye.
Nothing against Rackety Tim, but that was one of the books where at one point I could not remember if I had actually read it or not. And when I was rereading it, even while I was rereading it, I still couldn't tell if I had read it or not, because I guess I had completely forgotten it.
Rereading it now with the way that it's typed out the Scottish accents is just so fun. But
Oh, I remember
The audiobook is fantastic.
oh yeah.
Yes.
I just know at one point he punches out a hair, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think my only protagonist complaint is, well, we're getting to it next, like it's Pearls of Lutra, but there was something in Pearls of Lutra, overall, a book I really, really enjoyed. There's something at the end of that book that I had a big problem with, even when I first read it. It's essentially the character who gets to take on and defeat the big bad is not the one that I wanted to see take on the big bad.
Oh, yep. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
and I honestly can't remember much about it, so okay.
We'll get there, because I remember even as a kid when I was just like loving all these books for the most part and just like really enjoying everything, that was something I legit had a problem with. And I remember talking to a friend at the time, and both of us had the exact same problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll get to that when we get to book 3 of Pearls of Lutra at some point later this year.
Indeed.
Yep.
All right. So is that everything we would change? Because I want to get into this fan theory and then talk about it.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, so this was submitted by a fan named Barnaby, who also he's also contacted us on Twitter about other things, but he definitely won my attention on this. So I'm gonna read word for word from basically his Twitter account. How to rewrite Outcast of Redwall. Cut down on Sunflash. He's a boring badger with a revenge plot. We've seen it before. Focus more on the relationship between Swart and Bluefen. Okay, we kind of mentioned that already. Bluefen's dad, whatever his face was, that was me.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either.
Bowfleck.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Had grown tired of being a warlord and settled in a plentiful land in peace. After Swart poisons him, Bluefen knows in order to maintain some semblance of control with her people, she must get close to Swart. Through her while, she's been able to prevent Swart from returning to the warlord life. After giving birth to their child, she learns to love their child, despite her internalized hatred for his father. She can still see herself in the babe. While Swart discovers that she'd been controlling him all this time, she gives her child to the Falcon, Scarlath. Hey! Falcon. Once she knows her child is safe, she mounts a Hail Mary attack on Swart. She kills many of Swart's top brass, but is killed by Nightshade's dagger. She falls to the ground smiling despite her loss. She tells Swart this is the greatest day of her life. Her child is safe and she will never have to see Swart's face again. Swart swears that he will see his child again. Nightshade warns him that seeing his child again is a bad omen. Back at Redwall, Bridie does volunteer the child, but more intelligently this time, the mother, Abbess, and Bella won't have it. It's
so the exact opposite.
Instead
of, here, child, take this child.
Yeah.
So the Abbey accepts the child.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Time skip! At this point, Sunflash is now introduced into the story. He has no revenge subplot. He's just a young, naive badger with no inclination to violence and no strategic advantages. He arrives at Salamanderstrong with zero experience as a badger lord. Vale, while being raised by the Abbey, is closest to Bryony. Fair enough. The others fear him and keep him at arm's length to his parentage. You can tell that most of the Abbey dwellers fear him, but do not respect him. He's conditioned to communicate through fear. The worst offender is the Friar. Even the most judgmental Abbey dwellers think the Friar is too harsh on Vale. This plays out much like the book, save for one difference. When Vale is poisoning the Friar's food in the book, Bryony makes the excuse of what if it was mistake. Well, what if it was a mistake? While you were in middle school, you probably saw some prankster put salt, pepper, hot sauce, etc. into someone's milk.
Like that scene in Dumb and Dumber.
What? Or 9 to 5 with the rat poison. What if that was Vale was trying to do? What tastes worse to an Abbey dweller than medicine? He grabbed what was on the shelf, and he happened to grab Nightshade with that. He didn't mean to hurt anyone, but his whole entire life he could be evil. After poisoning the Friar on accident, he starts to believe his destiny is inescapable. Once thrown out of the Abbey, he leaves in search of his father. Bryony and her friend give chase, and Scarlath continues to watch over Vale from a distance.
I point out who the friend's name is, but was it Target?
Target, yes.
Okay.
I want to add 2 more comments from him. I had also thought how the book would still need to retain the basic moral of the original. Bryony needs to learn that she cannot change a person, but nothing that means that Vale can't choose to be a better person. When Vale meets up with his father, he'd just be an outcast as much as he was at the Abbey. Admittedly, he kind of was already. Perhaps he forms his own Tight Knight group of rapscallions and tries to run away from his past, and later he has to later realizes he has accepted done terrible things. So that's it. It doesn't finish out what the book would have gone, but frankly, we already mentioned before this. Yeah, I like this. One, it kind of brings up a point I mentioned back when we covered an Outcast. Bluefen is good, and we point already out. Bluefen is going to know who killed her father. Whether it's just simple practice, and if she has to marry him due to Vermin bylaws, because or Swart needs to take her as a wife just to keep up control over her father's troops, that's totally fine. But she's going to want to have her own agency here, and this is a brilliant way to do it.
Vermin HR is like, look, man, for the team to respect you, you got to be married.
Gotta get those bennies on the form, man.
I understand why taking Sunflash's revenge plot out is actually kind of a good idea in this particular case. But as we kind of mentioned on the Outcast episodes themselves, it's kind of the better half of that story is following Sunflash.
Mhm.
Which, in this case, I think the best thing would have been just give Sunflash his own book and then leave this on like as its own thing. Like maybe split the two into two separate books. Like you have Sunflash's story, which I like Sunflash. I think he's a nice contrast to like the ridiculously warlike Badgers we get, and where he has like this gentleness and like he's a cook and everything. I really like that. And I would have also liked to see like maybe a story with him and like starting a family or something, see what type of father he could have been, and like training Badgers to become the next lords or lordess of Salamandastron, and then give the Outcast story its own book. Like maybe not have them both as the same story.
Well, we do know Sunflash does have his own descendants because it's outright
Ron Blade.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, young Ron Blade would have been cool. Ron Blade definitely, though, went in a different direction than Sunflash did. Sunflash kills an entire ship of rats and cries about it. Ron Blade murders an entire ship of rats and then just kind of sleeps it off like a hangover.
Honestly, yeah, this would have been a good way to rewrite the book, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Agreement.
All right. Well, Tim. You had a bunch of questions you wanted us to address, so I'm gonna let you take point.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, Drew. Did you have something else to?
No. I really, really like that rewrite.
Yeah. So these were just a bunch of questions I kind of came up with in a bit of a fugue state, I guess. I was just kind of typing them up, and I thought that may be good questions to ask all of you. So, I mean, if you had the ability to, a lot of you have spoken about this last time, apparently, but there's actually a huge list here. If you had the ability to do a proper fan casting, voice or mocap of a certain character, which would it be? What would it be, etc. Let me briefly just say that if there ever was to be a Redwall movie series or even just a Netflix show or anything like that, I would want Andy Serkis's production studio to take over for the mocap voicing, because I imagine that Andy Serkis would do this series proper justice, considering the amount of work that he has done for, Planet of the Apes and like a bunch of other stuff. And I don't even know who he would be, but I just feel like that'd be a good production company to take over for it. So
I don't disagree. And because I want to go over our list of voice actors at the end here, let's limit this to one for now. So if I only had to pick one, that isn't already Tim Curry or we mentioned, I want to go Malcolm McDowell as Unget Trun. Now, if you're not familiar with him, he's a classical British actor who has played both hero and villain roles and everywhere in between. And he's definitely one of those, I guess, big British actors. He's played villains before. Everywhere from Caligula to, oh God, what's the name of it?
Star Trek Generations.
Yeah, sorry, that's not where I was going with.
Tank
A
Girl.
Clockwork Orange. That big character. I can't even remember it now. But that's who I would vote for.
I'll leave my joke one for later, but I was thinking throughout the week, I had two ideas for Finbar Galedeep from Bellmaker. One would be Kevin Conroy, also known as the eternal voice of Batman from the animated series and 8,000 other productions of Batman. I think he would be like kind of doing not the full-on Batman voice, but kind of something similar. That or David Hayter doing the Solid Snake voice, kind of like gravelly like this, would be a good one for Finbar.
Absolutely.
think that I had one and I lost it. Someone else go.
I think that'd then be you then, Drew.
Oh, I would want Frank Welker, the voice of Megatron, as Clooney.
Nice.
Hey, I think that was one of mine.
I'd want Tom Felton as Vale.
So another one I've got here is, if Brian Jakes hadn't left us so soon to the Dark Forest, what sort of book in the Redwall series would you have liked to have seen? For me, that would be the founding of Salamandastron.
Yes, that'd be cool.
That would be very. I would think that'd be pretty cool and interesting. I feel like that'd be an interesting book to go into the Badger lore, because it feels like Badgers kind of have a mysticism angle to them, kind of druidic, which is one of the reasons why they're able to quote unquote see into the future or prophecy or anything like that. It'd be interesting to touch on that a little bit more, maybe their connection to the Dark Forest, because it feels like they're always kind of on the shores of it during battle. And I guess the other one would be something involving the Northlands a bit more, and then weirdly enough, something I have affectionately called Vermin Town. Just basically just all perspective from just vermin. Like, I don't know what exactly it would be about, but I just want to, I don't know, just something from the vermin perspective more, because then you could explore the whole angles of, evil, nature, nurture kind of thing. But
I would argue, at least if this were mine, put us on another continent. Like, have a good reason for Redwallers or Salamandastron Long Patrol to leave not Britain and either hit the Europe mainland or, go to North America. There's plenty of creatures yet unexplored that could have found their way into the series. What is a raccoon, for example?
Absolutely.
Where do they fall? That would be what I would argue.
I want a book just following the Gauzen.
oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I want a Gauzen main character.
Yes, there's sort of one in Sable Queen, but yes, I agree. I would like more. I kind of would like another female Logolog. I know that there was one female Logolog and one female Formal in the entire series, and I honestly think that Jakes just did that to be like, see, had a female in that position. Now let's go back to the old one. So I really would like maybe like a young female Logolog who maybe isn't as respected, and just trying to, like, her journey of trying to figure out like how to lead and how to, be a good leader.
That would be a great book.
I had two ideas. One would be an actual flashback to Loamhedge, like how that basically what I thought the Loamhedge book was going to be. That's what I would like.
Yeah.
Not what we got. And yeah, it would kind of end on like a sadder note, because like I think it would be like the story leading up to the sickness that happened and why they had to leave, but at least have like a good section of the book dedicated to how Loamhedge worked.
I mean, we know Germaine had considerable time to configure how she would build the next abbey, to the point that it would be self-sustaining. So
yeah,
maybe Loamhedge's biggest problem wasn't just the plague, is that they literally were reliant on food from elsewhere.
Yeah, because I mean, as we see in Madameo, Loamhedge was really off in the middle of nowhere and really close to like desert area too.
Yeah, not to segue too much off of this, but I mentioned this before, is that Brian never did like a lore Bible necessarily for the series, because he didn't really have to. I mean, these books were for children, and so you kind of knew what you were getting into, but there's a lot of stuff brought up that, again, that's what the fandom is for, of filling in various fan theories as to why this was this and why this was that. And yeah, it's just, there's no real lore Bible to explain as to this is why this is reason or whatever. But
Yep.
If you could strike one Redwall book from the official canon lineup, which one would it be?
Roku.
Yeah, Road Crew.
Not even a bat of the eye.
I was literally expecting the first response to be Outcast.
Yeah, I was
No.
just gonna
I was
go.
waiting for
3,
someone to
2,
say that, but
1,
okay, I'm
Outcast.
glad nobody said
Everybody
anything.
Outcast.
There's stuff I like in Outcast. Rogue Crew just does not feel. It doesn't feel like a Redwall book anyway. So out it goes. Goodbye.
I when we get to that book, it's going to be amazing because I feel like I've talked about it even from like episode 1 of Redwall that these Redwall books seem like themes for children meant to be read to them by somebody older,
Mhm.
where Road Crew feels like children's words, like a 4-year-old could read it, but like with themes that I don't know an edgy 16-year-old would absolutely love, including like ritual disembowelment. It was
Wait, what?
it's a book.
Okay, you're now all frightening me here because I have not read that at all.
Wow, I haven't
Nor
either.
me, and
Yeah.
because
I'm looking forward to how this goes when we eventually, because that's going to be that's the last book. So like, that's going to be interesting when we finally get there.
If
And
the
yeah.
writing had been good, it would have been one of my favorite books. It would have been like a nod to the aging fans of Redwall. You know, they're like, we're gonna give you something that's a little bit more serious. It will be really cool. It would
The
have been like,
concept was cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But the writing was terrible, and I don't think it was Brian Jakes. I think it was published posthumously.
It was,
And I think some of the names were also, I was talking in, I think the group text about this, but the Bellringer's name is Ding Toller. Why?
Wow.
Pardon?
Oh god, I thought some of the
Exquisite
other
laugh?
names were that's gonna be the runaway dumbest name of all time, and we've had some ridiculous ones.
I mean,
but
that's right up
Hey.
there with Slipper. I'm sorry.
Ding Toller. All right.
Toller.
Oh, all right.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh,
Crew.
did everyone answer Road Crew? Is that the
No,
consensus
because
here?
I can't answer Road Crew because I have yet to actually read it.
No.
I'm gonna go with the books we've covered, and I might take some heat for this, but Legend of Luke.
Mm.
And the reason is, don't get me wrong, there are parts of it that are okay and that actually fill out Martin's story that he, gets to leave a life of being a warrior behind and become a peaceful monk. Fine. But with the way the book is structured, and this is only because we have to strike one, I honestly think Martin's character arc would have been fine if we only saw Martin and Mossflower, respectively.
Mm.
That's the only reason I'm choosing to use it.
Yeah, I didn't have one really picked out. I just was very curious about your guys' stuff because you are all very, very deep Redwall fans. I'm kind of on the skim level of it where it's like I enjoy the book significantly, but not to the level that you are all on. So okay, so
Oh wait,
Oh.
actually, I didn't go.
oh my bad.
Sorry.
over
I
here,
had
Paul.
joked that I was expecting someone to say Outcast. I'm not going to say Outcast. Hate to beat the dead horse, but Doomwhite, we'll get to it, but I don't like it. I don't think it's like the only one I think I've read where I don't want to read it again, and I'm not looking forward to rereading it for
man.
this podcast. Just
I liked
because
it.
nothing, I don't know, for me personally, like just nothing about it felt like the other books in a bad way. And it glossed over stuff. It had a lot of the problems that I was seeing in later books where like this is anticlimactic or this is something that should have taken time. There's literally a scene where a hare shows up and they're like, well, you're a hare. We're going to give you Martin's sword.
Yes.
Like what? Why? Huh? Aren't the characters supposed to earn this weapon usually in the books, or like it's given to them because Martin has said it so or something? Like I know it's
Or he sends a blind herbalist to come find you in the night.
that too. And I know that they beat it into everyone's heads and not like the chosen character, like, by the way, this is only a sword. It's not, gonna make you a god or anything, but at least have some ceremony when you give it to the character. Like this hare shows up and he's like, I heard you need a hare, and they're like, yeah, here's Martin's sword.
Well, he does save the life of another character before that.
Okay, I don't know. I just like stuff like that. Like it feels like it should have built up to him, like him saying like I want to become the Abbey warrior, and like eventually at some clutch point he gets the sword and defends the Abbey sort of thing. Um, but just and like I said, the weird body horror stuff in that like left me with like a bad taste in my mouth for like a week after I read it. Um,
I will
yeah,
say to your
I would
previous point,
strike Doom White.
the names are weird in that one. Like that's the one of the I was noticing. There's somebody named Doink and somebody named Bisky. Like, okay.
Yeah,
Are these
and-
Pokemon or characters in the book? Like,
who's that Redwaller?
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and it also ticked me off because it mentioned that it goes out of its way many times to mention that the supposed main protagonist of the book is a descendant of Gomf, and this is the first book to mention Gomf in like forever, and they do nothing with it. Like nothing was really done with it, and that also bugged me. So out of all the ones that I have read, Doom White is definitely the one I would jettison.
All right.
Noted.
Which books would you have liked to have been adapted into a different medium, cartoon or otherwise?
I'm
All
gonna take
of
this
them?
first. all the books get a cartoon except you, Doom White.
I guess to kind of
Doom
I guess to
White
kind
on
of go
HBO.
I guess to kind of go through this of like realistically, you know, if you were given like the budget of just to do maybe 3 or 2 of the books, like which ones would you want to be adapted into a different medium, and what kind of medium would you want adapted?
I'll go
It
first
into.
on this, if you don't mind. I would do 2 things. Well, 3. First, as I kind of mentioned on the graphic novel episode, now that once they got the original out of the way and they know what works and doesn't, make men a male. I honestly think that would be good as served by a graphic novel if done correctly. And I outline my reasons then, but then me of the other 2, as far as I can tell from what I've seen on fan forums and whatnot, there was a planned 4th season of the cartoon, and it would have been Mariel.
That would have been cool.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll go that. But
would've
if I
liked
had
that.
to pick another book to be cartoon, Mossflower. Follow
Yeah.
Martin.
Yep.
And-
I would have said the same thing.
And
I would have loved to see Gomf.
or Sarmina.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
even Sarmina could be. I mean, she's a great villain in her own right. I'm not saying the only thing I could say make her better is that from her point of view, she's the lawful ruler of Mossflower. She's just putting down a rebellion. You know, you can play with that. I'm not saying she's not an evil character that didn't need to be deposed, because clearly she did. But there is wiggle room there.
I would have liked to see, Mossflower, Mariel. Probably, I'm trying to think. There'd be a nice Legend of Luke, or like Luke, like his whole story as a full season, not the side stuff, not books 1 and 2, but like that like basically my idea for a full book of Luke's adventures, have that as an animated series. I would have liked that. Basically anything prior to I like prequel stuff sometimes, or like I liked it when these books jumped back in time to like kind of fill in gaps and reunite you with characters that you hadn't seen in forever, which is actually one of the things I liked about books 1 and 3 of Legend of Luke, because we hadn't seen Martin and Gonf at the time in forever. I would have liked a Luke anime cartoon. And I definitely agree on the Mossflower and Mariel ones. I would love to have seen both of those, and possibly a Bellmaker one too, just so we could have seen the continuation of Mariel and Dandon and all their stories. And animated Blaggett would have been fun.
Right.
Hmm.
I was
Rob
gonna say
Paulson
that.
as animated Blaggett.
Sure.
Aw. Just that pinky voice, or
Yeah, like similar.
Oh.
And you have who played the brain, because I want him as Slip.
Maurice
Oh.
LaMarche.
Maurice LaMarche as the Slip.
Hey,
And,
Slip, what are we gonna
Rob-
do tonight?
Trying to take over the Abbey. Rob Paulson as the voice of animated Blaggett.
Okay.
So I'm thinking Long Patrol.
Oh,
Yes.
Mm.
Yep.
good one.
Because it's so cinematic. Like you have the tension of, the wall is sinking. There, spoilers for Long Patrol, BTW. And like there's this big, giant, enormous army marching toward us. We don't have enough people. What are we gonna do? And just kind of the mysticism of, okay, we're gonna have this person disguised as a seer and try to talk the warlord out of coming to Redwall. It's like this whole sort of. I think
Oh,
it would make a
yeah.
very good cartoon.
The,
Yeah.
You know,
the
that's a very
actual...
good point.
Go on. Sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. I was just saying, yeah, I totally forgot about Long Patrol, and I went, yeah, actually, that would be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, animated Krego would be fun.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, please, yes.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna put one more book, Moral Fox, as a cartoon.
Yep.
Yes, definitely.
Uh,
You know what? Let's just
Still,
go with the trilogy: Pearls of Lutra, Long Patrol, Mara Fox. Let's have that as a series of seasons right there.
There you go.
That would be great. Marl Fox would be fantastic because I'm just thinking that with an episodic TV show, they can cut between what's going on in the castle, what's going on at Redwall, and kind of what's going on in between. You know, there's a
Yeah.
lot. You know, it's not just like A plot, B plot. You know, back and forth, back and forth. There's villain plans, and then villain plans in villain plans.
Mhm.
And I'd even like to see like more explanation of what happened to Dad Moral Fox, because we don't know how true that is. That allegedly he wanted to make himself king, and his wife's like, "Okay, you gotta go."
Yeah.
Spoilers.
I want to see an animated show, like a really good animated show of all of these would be really good. But I could see like an actual, like in the style of a Japanese anime, Marl Fox, or especially like Long Patrol would be great with that, with Tamo D. Formello. That's the classic zero to hero right there.
Yeah.
He gets his dirk. He's part of this crack squad of quirky hairs. Each of them has their own thing. There's the
A team of hairs.
Yes,
I
the
love it when
A-team
a
of
plan
hairs.
comes together.
Oh, they're so good. Whoever was his name, Rock, like the really big one. Oh, man.
Rockjaw. Yeah.
Rockjaw. Oh my God, it's a good book. It's one of my favorite Redwall novels, but I feel like it could be adapted pretty much into any medium and still be a really like tight knit story.
Yeah. Long Patrol was also one of the ones to not have like a super happy ending to it as well.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely had like at the very end some things to smile about, but it wasn't like Martin the Warrior, but I remember when I first read it and I got to like that last section, I was like, oh, like,
Ouch.
Aftermath of a war going on right now. Like it's
Yeah.
just like Craig is depressed, things like that. Like, wow.
Yeah. All good answers. All very good answers. I only want this just because I'd like to see this, even if it was done in a short, because in my mind, I imagine this just being this most terrifying thing, was the displays of power of the Blue Horde.
Yeah.
I remember reading that with the ground shaking and ripples going across the ocean, going, oh my gosh, this would look terrifying to like, I don't know, just awesome in like a cinematic way. But that's my only contribution. Long Patrol, now that you've mentioned it, actually, that'd actually be a very good one.
Or the scene where they roll the flaming log down the hill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What animal would you be in the Redwall universe?
Oh, we talked about this once.
On the
podcast.
text stream.
Yes.
I'm going to get I'm trying to find a good artist for it, or I'll break out my old Wacom tablet and try myself. But I kind of want to get a group of us drawn as Redwall characters, and we'll see how that comes. But I said, there's no. I looked through the series. There's no Abbott or Abbas as a mole, and since I'm producing here, I'm gonna be a mole. Or
I'm a squirrel.
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 I'd say mouse or hare. I like mice, but hares are so much fun in this series.
I'm thinking of Shrew.
Yeah.
For myself,
Drew the Shrew.
Shrew the
Was that intentional? Drew, was that intentional?
No, I just think being a part of Gausm would be dope.
Okay. Personally, I would want to be a river otter or a sea otter. Just something about like I'm a big fan of spicy food, and just in general, I like good ales and stuff. So I would probably lean to hedgehog every once in a while, but I think I'd be more along the lines of an otter because I like swimming. I like I don't know, just like otters. Cool.
I didn't bring it up that much at the time, but yeah, the whole reason I went mole was Egbert, and I'm like, oh, just his. Yeah, he's a smart guy, but everywhere he goes, everyone just doesn't know what to do with him because he doesn't use the mole dialect.
What animal would you have liked to have seen in the Redwall universe, hero or otherwise?
Porcupine. Or no, I already mentioned porcupine, or even like I said, bring some North American or Australian species in here, because that would have been a good opportunity to expand who is what.
Guinea pig, just because I had a guinea pig as a child, and they were just
guinea pigs are cool.
I think a chipmunk would be neat.
A skunk with a badger complex.
Yeah, I like that.
Speaking of which, your favorite badger lord and or lady?
Ooh.
I already know mine, and I've said it countless times. Lady Krega. So
I was gonna say, would it be too obvious if I said Krega? I'm just gonna go ahead and say Krega.
Constance.
well,
Orlando.
Yeah,
actually.
Fair.
Yeah, definitely Krega, and I really like Sunflash. I just like his mixture of warrior, but also like how gentle, like I said earlier, like how gentle he is and how different he is.
So these next two, I guess we could kind of lump together, and it's probably been, you guys have probably said this countless times already. Favorite protagonist and favorite antagonist?
Martin and Badgerang.
Marielle and I want to say Plug Firetail, who we haven't got to yet.
Martin and Clooney. Because I definitely measure the villains against him when I'm writing up my notes. Clooney is just the prototypical villain.
Yeah, Marielle and Clooney.
Good. I didn't really have a set answer for this one, honestly. I just wanted to know what your guys were. What is your, I guess because we're kind of going, well, like then again, the weights have been dropped. What is your absolute favorite moment of the entire series?
Oh, I don't want to. Mine's in a future book, so I don't want to talk about it yet.
Yeah.
Man. I really like the last sequence in Mossflower where Martin just standing up to Saramina in her castle and taking an arrow without flinching. Then that entire sequence just leading up to his duel with Saramina and that whole fight, where I'm a big fan of hero versus villain, where the hero keeps getting knocked down, but then just keeps getting back up, and the villain just doesn't know what to do about it.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, exactly.
On that same vein, I'm going to go Matthias's entrance with both sword and shield, the Clooney. It's when even the graphic novel got very right, where he just walks in full of anger. He's just like, no, you and I this was long ago written that you and I were going to meet. And Clooney is like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, from what we have so far, I think that's my best one.
For myself, I've kind of got two, and I'll be brief with them. Blaggett's quote-unquote redemption was a big moment for me that made me tear up, and also just it gave me hope for the rest of the series, as far as like, oh, there might be some good characters, like good redemptive characters every once in a while, and also just in general, I really like Blaggett. But then also very personal was the death of Methuselah, because Redwall series was like the very first book series that I read that was more, I guess, grown up. because most of the books I read before were like, the Time Squad Trio or whatever. I forget what the name was, but it's very, very minimal books with no real consequence of death or anything like that. And so when, oh, what's that?
Sorry, it's my stupid clock that has birds on it, and it's chirping
I
the
thought
hour.
your fire alarm was going.
Yeah, it's like, get out of the house.
There's a really loud cricket.
Yeah,
I will finish this podcast.
yeah, it's just a fake bird. We're fine.
I can podcast all day.
But then, but Methuselah was like the death of Methuselah was the first like real consequence death I'd ever experienced in a book reading.
Mhm.
And so I actually remember I was reading while we were in the car and I actually screamed out, "No!" like really loudly. And it caused my mom to swerve off the road a little bit. And so, I mentioned this in the summer food episode, but yeah, she pulled over like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Someone died in a book." And so she's like, I'm glad that you really like that book, but please keep it to yourself next time. Yeah.
I wouldn't rank in the vein of that. I wouldn't rank it as my favorite moment, but I will say Rose's death in Martin the Warrior was one of the biggest standout moments for me because
Yeah.
I didn't remember that it happened when I reread the book. Like I didn't remember sections of it. And so when I got to that part, I was like, wait, what? Oh God, like I know I started tearing up as soon as it like hit me that she was gone.
And
I
it's
think
so ambiguous. It's like, she hit the wall and she fell, but it's like, okay, she's just unconscious. She'll be fine. And it never actually says Rose has died. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I always just remember that line is she hit the wall and fell like a rag doll.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason when that came up in our Martin 3 episode, I treated it as seriously as we did, and we put the music in because characters die in this series all the time. No matter what kind of big battle there's always going to be a big hero death. There's always going to be the antagonists are, for obvious spoilers, but yeah, we know they're almost never going to win. So, but that one death is kind of this huge it's one of the few books that actually has a tragedy ending. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you listen back to that episode, like we were all at that point, we were all kind of taking turns talking because it was so difficult for each of us just to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that showcases like how big of an impact that moment had on all of us.
Yep. And I've just got to say, I'm glad that we did that before my friend died, because after, I don't know if I would have been able to do it even. Like, it's just...
I don't blame you.
It's like, I don't think I actually did cry in the episode, but that would have changed if we did it after. So.
I got 2 questions last here now, and I'll probably take off after I ask the second one just because I actually have to get going.
Okay.
But so
All
what
right.
is a concept you wish could have been explored more in the Redwall universe? And I'll be very brief with this, is that the idea of the quote-unquote religion that's kind of in the universe of where ghosts can influence things a little bit, but then they can't. It's kind of a little bit of like a Shintoism and of a belief of like ancestors can do things and communicate beyond the grave, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I wish that was explored a little bit more, as far as like, no, there's an understanding of this is why people can do this. Because then they do establish also with some of the vixens, like some of them can actually predict the future. Some of them can't, but some of them do. In fact, they even reference like there's a god of the underworld, a fox, or like that all foxes are descended from like a god fox. I'm like, oh, that's new. I wish I knew. That's a little bit of lore that I'd like to know more about. But yeah.
Horses. How do they work?
Honestly, again, this is more my adult sensibilities, but the nature versus nurture, or like we mentioned earlier, why the whole concept of a vermin town, like, because even just if you think about it for all the 5 minutes, from their point of view, the standard woodlanders have better lands, better food resources, have walls to protect them, and you have to worry about, if you don't die as a kid, scraping a living away, maybe finding someone to spend your life with, and hoping someone doesn't stab you in the back in the night for scraps, and trying to raise kids in that. Yeah, I'd be bitter too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of would like to know more about the concept of Martin having kind of nominal involvement, like the ghosts controlling things or whatever, but like he seems to be very cryptic in what he can say, and I would kind of like to know, like,
Why?
is this going off of what he's allowed to say, and if so, who governs those rules? Like,
right.
You can only say this in this form. You have to give them a riddle. You can't just say, no, don't do this because XYZ.
Yeah. That's something I really want to explore. Like I've actually been trying to do some research on this because I actually want to do a video on it or something, because this idea of mysticism in the Redwall universe is just very interesting to me, as far as like why is it that riddles why can you only communicate riddles? I guess because Brian wants riddles, but still.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice, like, if he said, like, the old saying of, like, well, if I explained everything, then it'd make it too easy for you, or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's his internal reasoning. Like, I can't make it flat out simple for everybody.
I mean, one of the things, and this goes along with the religion tie-in, but they live in an abbey.
Right.
Like in abbey, they've got an abbot, and that's an inherently religious position.
And there's clearly, they do mention outright, they take vows if you become a brother or sister.
Yes.
So.
And they say grace.
Yeah.
But they never have, like, the Dibbins. Do the Dibbins ever have, like, lessons that they're actually going about?
There's Abbey School that's mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, Saxus outright.
Constance was falling asleep in it. I remember something about that.
I mean, Saxus and Dandon both recite the Abbey Charter, which, they had to be taught that. So.
Yeah, they have a charter.
Again, the education system in Redwall is really weird at times.
I would question, if Matthias was supposed to be like the true successor for Martin, how come he doesn't show up in anybody's visions and it's still just Martin?
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, Abbess Germain's kind of a big figure in the Abbey history, much as Gonf.
It would be so funny if, Matthias gets to the Dark Forest and Martin's like, oh, finally my replacement's here. And Matthias is like, no.
Wait,
he just walks through the gates.
Wait, what? Okay, kid, it's all yours now. Rose and I are going to the beach. See ya.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe post Matameo, it actually is Matthias, and everyone just keeps thinking it's Martin. And every time he comes back, he's like, why doesn't anyone recognize me?
I was the hero once. I did just as much as him. No, he didn't.
I am that is.
Yeah.
Did everyone get a chance to?
I think so.
Okay, so this is the last one, and I actually will just duck out because one, this is kind of more of a question for the producers. This is more of the question for producers and also just in general concepts you guys want to do. But what other ideas do you all have as possibilities for future episodes? Fan fiction, guests, specialty episodes, etc. Like, what kind of things would you guys like to do? And with that, I will duck out and leave it to you. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks for being on.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for the questions.
Yeah.
Night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
I do have one for this. I want like a full 30-minute episode of Redwall trivia. We can do it in teams. We can do it solo. If we do teams, I call KD. We could, even like, I'm sure there's online programs and stuff where you can actually set up trivia between people.
Speaking as someone who used to teach, yes, there is.
Oh no. But yeah, Redwall trivia, I think it would be neat. Get some hard questions about, like, protagonists' names after book 6.
What was the name of the vixen in Tagarung?
Nobody gives a fladoodle about Dandon.
There's a
Dan's?
Midwest. Actually, there's a Midwestern concept, although it shows up other ways in the country, called a trivia night. Usually for charity, where you
Yep.
go in, you pay $20, and you sit at a table of 8 people. They provide beer and like snacks, and you can bring your own food. And yeah, it's a trivia contest among like 20 teams, and winner take all. Although every time I've been to this, the winning team always donates the funds right back to the whatever
Yeah.
charity is being sponsored. So, yeah, a full-on Red Bull trivia night would be a lot of fun.
Yes, it would.
Yep.
I
I would
wanna do-
definitely. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say once we're finished with like all the books and stuff, I want to do like a final ranking episode, like the best squirrel and the worst squirrel and the best hare and the
Yes.
like
I
all
like
of
that.
those.
Well,
Oh,
we
we
already
already
know who
know
the
the
worst
worst
hair is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. I don't dislike him. He's good.
Oh, no, nobody can be worse than Fleet Scott.
No, Fleet Scott's a good boy.
No, he
No.
does not. He does literally nothing of value in that entire book. Like he keeps saying, like, "Oh, Lord Stonepaw, I found I found the badger that will save
Oh,
us."
come on,
You
he got
didn't
the
find
squirrels on his
anything.
side.
He
He
was
got the-
on
he
his
got the
way to the
rogues on his
mountain
side.
anyway.
Dance,
invoked
dance, my
everything.
puppets.
You literally found someone's it's like Chris Rock said about Christopher Columbus. You found someone's backyard, all right? You didn't find anything. Fleet Scott, you worthless schmuck. Yeah, like they take him to the encampment where I can't remember the name, the big guy that Dottie fights. I can't remember his name as I'm blanking.
King Bucko.
King
King
Bucko. Fleet Scott does nothing of value during that entire section. Meanwhile, everyone else is helping Dottie, training her, teaching her. The two kid hares are training her how to fight. And what is Fleet Scott doing? He's
He's
sitting on
old. He's kneading his hands. He's like, oh my god, we gotta get back.
He's
You
sitting
know,
on his bobtail doing nothing. They finally get back, and what else is Fleet Scott
Okay.
doing? He's complaining. He's the best complainer in the franchise.
Okay.
Jeremy
at
has
least he's
feelings.
memorable. Like, at
don't
least you
like
remember
this
Fleet Scott.
character.
I-
I
okay,
said this
here
in
we
my
go.
text. I think it should be Trey Parker doing his Cartman voice for Fleet Scott. That should be his voice in an animated show.
He's a real person. That was the.
He's a
entire
real
thing.
annoying person.
Okay, thank you. Debit card.
Stand pat and
I-
my cheese
I'm cutting
pig.
this out if you keep it up.
That's Fleet Scott.
All right. As far as actually what I have planned as, kind of series producer here, I am trying to bring on more voice actors from the game, and if I can find them, audiobooks.
Yay!
That would be awesome. Yes, I'd be totally down for more guests on the show like that. That'd be cool.
Unfortunately, we can't interview Brian himself for obvious reasons, but I'm not sure we even could get his attention.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we
but
will definitely, I think we've mentioned it, we're definitely going to be doing more food episodes, which I'm looking for the next one since unfortunately I was not able to be on the last one. I'm trying to think of other stuff.
I do want to do, like I said earlier, the Great Red Wolf Feast, but I want to save it for something special.
If we do the last 2 episodes of Flying Dutchman, I know we can say that now. But if we do the last 2 episodes of that as kind of unregistered, unlisted, and they're PG-13, that would be just dandy. Because half of my vocabulary is not allowed on this show.
I mean, this is my intention from the beginning. I wanted a show that parents could listen to kids with in the car.
No, I'm not like, Pete, you terrible Abbott. How dare you?
Well, heck, you know what we could do in regards to that? We could try, actually be really entertaining if we found a way to make that third book PG when we cover it. And then, so we can actually drive up interest in the other podcast we do. We could use that as the uncensored, let's go whole hog, PG-13, maybe higher sort of thing.
I'm up for that.
Yeah.
We could do the PG episodes, and we could do a R. So
Yeah. as
Okay.
laughs maniacally.
Okay.
So I just want to get to the last bit because, like Tim, my time is limited. I've got about 20 minutes. So
Pete died.
Okay, that's fine. Like I said, I'm
I'll-
exhausted. I'm starting to lose my voice.
I'm gonna get through. I'll get through mine here pretty quickly. Lastly, what if we mentioned at the end of the last episode, and this is what I want to explore? If you had to, if there were more seasons of the cartoon, who would you cast with what role? And I'm gonna go first. I mentioned last time I'm gonna keep this. Tim Curry. I'm gonna recast him. I love him as Sligar. But I would see it as Frogo.
Yeah.
I already mentioned Malcolm McDowell's Ungat. In a more humorous bent, I want to see Christian Shaw, who was the voice of Mabel Pines on Gravity Falls, and is the current voice of Webby on the redone DuckTales as Dottie the Hare. Because she would just that insult fight would be hilarious.
That would be great. Absolutely.
Jeffrey Combs, who is a classic B-movie actor and has done a lot of voice work, has a very iconic voice. He played Ratchet on Transformers Prime, for example.
He was he played at least 3 different characters in Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
He did. Methuselah. So, Darren Norris, who I'm pulling from Transformers because I will like to have that on in the background or another cartoon or two when I'm doing things. Who played Knockout on Transformers Prime. He's a very good villain voice as Ergen Nagru. Jeremy, well, someone already spoiled my choice for Clooney. If we can't,
That wasn't me.
I'm sorry, I said. Yeah, Frank Welker's Megatron voice for Clooney. So.
I'd actually be down with Beast Wars Megatron voice as Clooney.
David Kaye.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mention him because he actually played Optimus in the franchise as well, and I would cast that voice as Matthias. Kevin Michael Richardson, who's one of these classic voice actors, very deep bass voice.
Shredder in the 2012 Ninja Turtles cartoon,
for example.
Oof.
Orlando the Axe.
Mm-hmm.
And because I want to give poor Clancy Brown, who is one of the nicest people in the VA industry, but he always plays villains, if you can call Mr. Krabs a villain, on SpongeBob. But I want to give him a heroic role, so he gets Speedlord Directory.
Nice.
Susan Eisenberg, who played Wonder Woman in the DC animated universe.
Yep.
Mariel.
See that.
Kevin Conroy, who Jeremy mentioned earlier, is pretty much the most iconic Batman. Lord Stonepaw.
I could hear him doing like his Batman
Bruce.
Beyond old Bruce voice for that.
And then Wilfredi, who plays he's a coming up voice actor. He's done everyone from he played Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond. He played Ron Stoppable in Kim Possible, in his more manic voice. And he played more seriously Lion-O in the brief Thundercats reboot. Yeah, make him Manameo.
I would actually really be down. Keith David as Boar the Fighter.
Oh, and if you don't know who we're talking about, that's Goliath from Gargoyles and the villain out of Princess and the Frog.
Yep, and
nice.
Keith
He was
David from Saints Row 4.
Professor Felicier.
Yes.
Yeah. He was also Captain Anderson in the Mass Effect games, and he was excellent in that too. He's a really, really good voice actor, and he's a really good live action actor too. He's just really good. I would say Frank Welker is almost all the male characters.
We're talking about a guy who has, with the exception of the live action movies, who has done a bunch of villains, and not only that, but he played Dr. Claw, played Megatron. He has played Fred on Scooby-Doo all 50 years of that franchise.
He's played animals. He was Abu in the original Aladdin movie.
Oh, wow.
My God.
Yeah. He was Bronx, the non-talking gargoyle dog in Gargoyles. So Frank Welker, I'd love Frank Welker as all like the non-talking characters in this franchise too.
So like the Gloomer.
Yes. Oh, Frank Welker would be awesome as the Gloomer. God, there's so many, and there's so many actors whose names Steve Bloom I know could do like tons of good characters. I'm trying to think like who would be a good Gonf.
This is a subtle reference, but Brendan Blaber, the guy who does the Jello Apocalypse YouTube channel, is a voice actor. I thought he'd be good as Gonf.
I want to fit Dante Bosco somewhere, but I'm really not sure where. He's a good Rufio. He's actually a good voice actor in his own right. He played Jake Long on American Dragon, and he played Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Wow, yeah.
So I'm gonna go. I haven't done Sunflash, so he would be my Sunflash.
Katie, do you have any casting choices?
I don't watch a lot of movies or TV anymore. Let's see. I would say I want to put Emma Watson somewhere, and I was thinking either Cornflower, because Cornflower and Hermione are the same person. They know everything and they do everything. Not really, but maybe Tree Rose, like young prissy Tree Rose.
That'd be dope. I want Sarah Stiles, who just played Spinell in the Steven Universe movie. I want her as either Dottie or perhaps Mariel.
Oh, nice.
She's got kind of like a gravelier voice. And then I would cast myself for every other character. I'm creating a quick Fortress of Solitude because there is a vacuum on in the distance. I'm under 2 layers of comforters.
Nice.
Perfect. Yes.
I was thinking of that woman in Game of Thrones who played the wildling whose name I don't remember. That's very helpful, I know. Natalia somebody or other. I had one for her, but I forgot it. So that was like the most pointless sentence I ever said on this podcast. But there you go.
All right. Is that everybody? We need Matthias wrote a bunch, but he can't be here today. David Tennant, who played the 10th Doctor and is the current Scrooge McDuck as Rackety Tam.
That would be neat, yeah.
I can't even say. I don't even want to try saying that name for Mrs. Beakley.
Yeah.
The current Mrs. Beakley in DuckTales as Constance Craig Rose Eyes. I'm sorry, actors whose name I don't even want to try.
I like his Adam West as Sir Harry the Muse.
Hell yeah!
Oh, nice.
I was trying to think of an Adam West role. That's perfect. Oh, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Wild King McPherson.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton is Cheese Thief.
Yeah. Shut up, Cheese Thief.
Oh, Tara Strong is all the Dibbins. Oh yeah, Tara Strong is another good voice actor.
Ashley Johnson, also a good. Usually she plays bit parts. He has Keith David as General Ironbeak.
That could be cool. That would work.
Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor, as King Bucko Big Bones.
Nice.
I do like his Patrick Stewart as Lord Stonepaw.
Yeah,
nice.
that would work.
That's a good one.
Mark Hamill as either Clooney or King Bolspera. It depends on which Mark Hamill voice, because he's a surprisingly talented guy. He isn't just Luke Skywalker in the Joker. He is.
Okay.
He's
I was
Fire
going to
Lord.
ask if that was
he's
Luke Skywalker, but I was like, I don't want to sound dumb, so I'm just not going to.
No. Yeah, Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill is huge in the VA world. Not only did he play the most iconic Joker, he played Fire Lord Ozai in Avatar, and was chilling as that villain. So that Fire Lord Ozai voice as Clooney, yeah, holy crap. Alan Young, the older Scrooge McDuck, as Friar Bellows. Yeah, sure.
I do like his Chris Pratt in regards to Emmett from the Lego Movie as Sam Kim. That's a good one. Yeah, I was thinking Patrick Stewart would also be a good one for Methuselah.
Yes. Definitely.
And the actress I was thinking of is for a character we haven't got to yet, so.
Yep.
Nancy Cartwright as Madame Mayo.
Which,
she's Bart Simpson.
yeah.
That I could totally see her be like more bratty Bart as early Madameo.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now I know who this voice. There's a voice actor in a couple animes that I really like. Jessica Boone. She's very good at playing a character like the girls who are kind of like relatively cute type characters. I think she would be very good as Tess.
Oh yeah.
Tess Church Mouse in Madameo.
Who played Roy Mustang?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm looking it up.
I'm on Behind the Voice
Travis-
Actors website right now.
Travis Willingham. Willingham?
Yeah. Who would he'd be a good one? And I'm
I'm trying to
rewatching
think of
Full
good
Metal
roles.
Alchemist right now.
Matt Mercer for older Matthias.
Travis Willingham as Joseph the Bowmaker.
Yep. That'd be good.
Who played Jorgen von Strangle in Fairly Odd Parents?
I'm looking that up.
I don't know who they be. I just want them in this.
Maybe it's King McPherson as an alternate. Darren Norris.
Yes.
That's
Orlando.
actually the same guy who did the knockout I mentioned. So
Hey.
that works.
Yeah, if we start digging through lists of voice actors, this would probably we could probably do
About
it like
3 hours.
I think we said this last time. We could do a whole episode like this.
And we might need to. Honestly.
I would like to do that. Like we could actually just compile, really compile a full list for heck,
Well, what if
one
we
episode
assign?
per book maybe.
Well, yeah. When I was gonna say, what if we just do assign each person to a book and let them have full reign to cast whoever they wanted?
I like that.
So I had kind of a general question for all of us. Like, what was like a favorite episode of the podcast? Like how it turned out for you? Like what's
one
your
of the
favorite
most
episode?
recent ones, actually, for me, the Madameo cartoon part 2.
Yeah, that one was good.
It still makes me laugh every time I think of it, and I told a few friends, like, I think we may have hit peak humor because I'm Mary Poppins, y'all! As just that image of Slagar, oh my god.
I keep trying to hear Tim Curry saying that in my head. Oh god. I think Martin Book 3 might be one of the ones that stands out a lot to me. Is that
That was a good one.
Yeah, we had plenty of humor in it, but like when we got to the end, like I think we handled that really well, and how each of us like were able to give our personal reactions and like how when we first read the book. I think that was a really good one.
Yeah. For some of my fondest memories were all like the entire time with Martin the Warrior. I also liked Salamandastron. I think that Salamandastron had some very strong, funny moments.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, when we did Madameo the book, that was we definitely hit I think we set our tone.
Mhm.
It's one of my favorites. Then we covered. It was the
Yeah.
first. So
I think
Oh
once
my
we really
goodness.
started having fun, like being able to joke around a little bit with like I
think
like how we started, but I feel like with Madameo we started having a little bit more fun with the content.
The joking, I feel like truly like got off the rails with all of the Sister May. All of the Sister May stuff. Like as soon as we got to Sister May, like before that had been mostly an analytical diatribe.
Mhm.
Redwall was kind of somber. There were some good moments, but then Madameo, as soon as it got to Sister May, then just the drug references flew.
I will carry that over to when we got to Lord Brocktree and came up with the like Salamander strain and things like that.
Berman HR. Yeah.
In HR, yeah.
I think, funnily enough, because I'm not a huge fan of the Redwall, the first season animated series, but those are some of my favorite episodes just because, like, there were so many good jokes in those, like, about the animation and just Wild Ivy and Those were some
Wild Ivy. Oh God.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, because I remember when we did the first season, where after the first episode we did of that show, I was like, I'm liking this. I think they're going a little bit fast on the pacing. I'm looking forward to what they do, and all of you were like, well.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's that we've talked about where we've been. We're talked a little bit of where we're going. I think this was a good recap show.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Sorry, I muted my mic because I had a siren outside my window.
Oh, no worries. And I really
I'm sorry.
liked. I am looking forward to our next episode. But before we get to that, Pete, you've done it the last couple episodes. Can I please do the link thing again? That was the one thing I was good at.
Okay, sure.
I want to tell people how they can contact us.
Don't say it like that.
Oh,
Or I will
God.
delete this and overwrite you by a man.
The pimply teen from The Simpsons. You can find us at recorderonthewall.com. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts. We are featured on the Eulalia subreddit. We are on the official Redwall forums. We have a Twitter account at ROTWpod, which is also our email address, rotwpod@gmail.com. Pete, I think in the last episode you had mentioned you were trying to get us set up on another podcast service.
Spotify, I'm working on it.
Okay, and Spotify coming soon.
And I do remember in one of those cartoon episodes, Jeremy all of a sudden was like, "Katie, tell people where they can find us." I'm like, we have an email.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, that was for you. I'm just like, I was not expecting this.
I think
Surprise!
that was the first episode we did without Pete, and so we were like, the Dibbins running the show.
Yeah.
You guys, you can do it without me now. So
Yeah.
when necessary.
Yeah. Well, and so next time we will be covering first part, whatever we deem the first part. I think it's like the first two books technically of The Flying Dutchman, Castaways of the Flying Dutchman.
Yep, it's October. Yay! All right, folks, we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.